Mustafa Barghouti is a Palestinian physician, activist and politician who serves as the General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative, also known as Al-Mubaddal. He's also the head of the Palestinian Medical Relief Society. He's been a member of the Palestinian Legislative Council since 2006 and also is a member of the Palestine Liberation Organization's Central Council. In 2007, he was a Minister of Information in the Palestinian Unity Government. He's also an advocate of the use of non-violence and civil disobedience to confront Israel's illegal occupation of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. Welcome, Mr. Barghouti. It's a real honor to be interviewing you. You've come at a time when there's a lot of issues in the Middle East. People think the conflicts there could even become a precursor to a global war, a third world war, in fact. However, what we've seen this week is an end to the Israel-Iran conflict, perhaps for now, maybe for a longer period. My question to you really is, what is the impact on Palestinian liberation of this particular conflict between Israel and Iran?
Well, I think the conflict between Israel and Iran, if you can call it so, is another proof of the fact that the Palestinian issue is the core issue of all the problems in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And it is the core issue that moves Israel to have so many confrontations with so many other countries. But also what happened with Iran was gave a proof that even if they start a war or end a war with Iran, that doesn't mean that the Palestinian issue will disappear. It's there. And it is the core issue. And some people think that because the war stopped with Iran, maybe this will have an impact. I am not sure. It depends on whether Mr. Trump, the President of the United States, is ready to pressure Netanyahu and his fascist government to give up their plans. And their existing plans are three very dangerous things. The first thing is the continuation of this terrible genocide on the people of Gaza. People should never forget that they've killed or injured 50,000 children up to now, Palestinian children. And they've killed or injured 10% of the population of Gaza. And this atrocity continues. Every day we lose 70 to 100 new people who are killed by Israel. Every day we have between 300 and 400 more injured people. Everything is destroyed in Gaza. So the war that Israel is conducting of genocide is continuing. But the other task they have, the second task, is to try to ethnically cleanse people from Gaza and from the West Bank. And the third thing is to enhance the settlers' attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank, who are really terrorist gangs attacking Palestinians with one goal also, which is to evict people from their homes. So I believe it seems that Trump is the only leader in the world who can pressure Israel, but I'm not sure he wants to do so. That's why I think it is so important to mobilize the utmost possible public pressure worldwide to stop this atrocity.
So when you see images of demonstrations in central London and all across the world, in fact, we know that governments, for example, at the NATO summit, Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, when asked specifically about the Palestinian question, he called for a Zionist Palestinian state, which for many people seems an oxymoron. How can you have a Zionist Palestinian state? That's the position of the leadership. However, the people across the world seem to be more in favor of the Palestinians than they've ever been. Do you believe that ultimately will lead to a better prospect for Palestinians to achieve what they need to achieve, i.e. self-determination, dignity in a homeland of their own? Or is it really, getting further and further away?
No, I believe we will get our freedom. I've always said that for years, for decades, as a matter of fact, that what happened in the case of South Africa will happen in the case of Palestine. Everything starts with the people who object to injustice. And then the people manage to pressure the parliaments. And then the parliaments pressure the governments. And the last to come will always be the United States of America, the government of the United States. We already see marvelous changes happening at the level of the public. When I see the demonstrations in London, we get so encouraged. When you have more than 600,000 people marching in support of Palestine, that's a major change. Now already the public opinion is changing, even in a country like the United States of America, who for the first time, the people who support Palestinian point of view is bigger than those who support Israel. That's a big change. And in my opinion, this public change will eventually force governments to change. Otherwise, if it wasn't for the public in Britain, you would not have seen these debates in the parliament. You would not have seen the British government obliged to impose sanctions on the fascists like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. And you need to do more. Keep up the pressure. Keep up the pressure, because there is no justification for the fact that Britain does not recognize Palestine up till now, while they keep talking about two-state solution. There is no justification whatsoever for any military cooperation with Israel while it is committing genocide. So I believe the public pressure is useful, important, and it should be even enlarged.
One thing that happened at the last general election was that 5 independent MPs were elected, 4 of those ostensibly because of the Palestinian issue. Next year, there are a stream of local elections, municipal elections, and it seems that this issue, because of the ongoing genocide, is still at the forefront of people's minds. What activists are now increasingly calling for is a boycott of Israel, not just settlement goods, but boycotts from Israel in its entirety. I know in the past you've been a little bit uncomfortable with a boycott of Israel. Has your position changed? For example, in this country, a large supermarket chain called the Co-op has decided that it will not be stocking any settlement goods, period. And that's now being implemented. And there are many other financial institutions that are divesting from Israel.
I've never been uncomfortable with the boycott of Israel. On the contrary, we're some of the founders of the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement. And I always called for it. And I think it should be boycott of this Israeli establishment completely, of course, because it's not just about settlements. It's the government policy of genocide. The genocide is happening by the Israeli army, by the Israeli government. Only just today in Haaretz, there was a report where Israeli officers and soldiers admitted that they were given instructions by their authorities to shoot and kill people while they were trying to get humanitarian aid. So the 560 people who were killed while they were trying to approach these humanitarian centers were not killed by mistake or by accident, by purpose. So that's an additional reason why there should be a boycott. And I really salute Hind Rajab Foundation, which goes after all these officers and soldiers in different courts in Europe, trying to have them arrested for violation of international law. Look, what's happening in Palestine is an insult to humanity. What's happening to Palestine in Palestine is a violation of every international law and every international humanitarian law. So today, standing with Palestine, boycotting Israel, is about preserving humanity, is about preserving international law. It's about preserving the future, even for Jewish people, because they will not be free unless we are free. And I think that's why I think every measure has to be taken and public pressure has to be increased to stop this unprecedented level of genocide that is the worst in modern history.
Israel Hayom, the newspaper which is closely linked to Netanyahu, it said that it's got a peace plan which will be proposed in 2 weeks' time, which is more or less what was proposed a few years back, which is a very truncated Palestinian state, and the PA must be reformed. But on that point of the PA, what's your view? Do you believe not having elections for 20 years has been a real barrier to bringing all the Palestinians together in a united front?
When people speak about reform, you have to ask them, what do they mean by reform? Does reform mean that Palestinians should enlarge even more their security apparatus, which cannot even protect Palestinians from settlers when they attack them? Or does reform mean democratic reform? The strange thing is that most Western governments, when they speak about reform in any other country, in Africa or Asia or anywhere else, they always start by talking about democratic reform and the right of democratic free elections, except when it comes to Palestine, because they follow the Israeli formula. And the Israeli formula does not want to see Palestinians choose and elect their leaders democratically and freely. So reform, yes, we need reform, but we need democratic reform. We need a reform where Palestinians will be able to choose their leaders freely and democratically, something we didn't have the chance to do for 20 years.
Coming towards the end of the interview, but the Palestinians in the West Bank are obviously watching what's going on with their brothers and sisters in Gaza. Do you fear, because you live in the West Bank, do you fear that a similar fate is on the horizon for Palestinians in the West Bank? And if that is a realistic fear, because we do see news reports of all the attacks on various Palestinian towns and cities and hamlets, what do you call on the international community to do to tackle that?
Pressure must be exercised immediately to stop the settlers' terrorist attacks on Palestinians. And pressure has to go in the direction of the Israeli government. The risk is very high because we are subjected now. 40 Palestinian communities have been already evicted by these illegal settler terrorists. The Israeli army has already evicted 65,000 Palestinians from Palestinian refugee camps in Tul Karim and Jenin, which were destroyed by the Israeli army. People had their houses burned and destroyed. This is happening in front of the world. So yes, pressure has to be exercised. We should not allow Israel to repeat the Nakba of 1948 and repeat not only the genocide, but the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And yes, it is urgent, it is necessary, and it's important. And Israel must feel that there is a price for what's happening. And they will not feel that there is a price unless sanctions are imposed on them.
Some people are increasingly calling for a one-state solution because they do not believe Israel will ever give a two-state, an independent Palestinian state. What's your view on that?
I believe Palestinians accepted two-state solution, at least their official leadership accepted that, and people were ready to accept that painful compromise, which was not just at all. Nevertheless, Israel is the one that rejects it. Today we have 7.3 million Palestinians on the land of historic Palestine versus 7.1 million Jewish people, not to count the 7 million Palestinian refugees who were displaced from their homeland. But with such a formula, what's the solution? Israel doesn't want two-state solution, doesn't want one democratic state solution, which I prefer personally. So what do they want? They want ethnic cleansing. And I say if they kill the idea of two-state solution, the only solution will be one democratic state. And they will not have the chance to kick us out. We will not leave, whatever it takes. The Palestinians will never accept to be displaced again. And there is no force in the world that will stop us from struggling for our freedom and for our rights and for our self-determination. And most importantly, for our country, Palestine.
And my final question to you, on a much more lighter note. You've come at a time when London is very, very hot. Lots of people are out and about. However, there is a real pain within themselves when they see the struggle of the Palestinians. Do you want to address those of our viewers who feel dejected and feel really downhearted because they don't see any hope? What hope do you see? What keeps you going? Where's your resilience coming from?
I tell them that our biggest enemy as Palestinians and as supporters of Palestinians, our biggest enemy is hopelessness and despair and depression.
Yeah.
We cannot allow that to be. We don't have the luxury to afford depression. It's unacceptable. And if we in Palestine, who suffer most, day and night, are capable of keeping hope, then you should keep hope. And there are moments when it's very difficult, but then you meet young Palestinians who are determined, you meet old people who have gone through so many sufferings, but they still keep hope. So hope is there. Stick to it. We will succeed, and eventually Palestine will be free.
Mustafa Barghouti, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.